All
Hi,
right.
hello. Yeah, thank you. Thank
Good
you, everyone.
good
Uh,
evening, folks. Thanks for joining this session. Today we have Arvind giving a tutorial on faster Python apps with the open source APM. Arvind currently works at Elastic as a developer advocate, and he will be walking you through the tutorial. So, Arvind, over to you.
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Snehit and Sanchit and all the organizers, namely like who helped, put up this thing, and also like reached out to several of the speakers and put this one. Probably in very short time, as I could hear. So that being said, thanks for the opportunity to speak. And today, what we'll do is like we will kind of like take a Python application and trace it and see how this tracing works. I'll walk you through say some 20-25 minutes of the theory, and then we will go and take an application and do this particular tutorial. So I have everything in place. So I have a GitHub repo. I'll give you look, even if I am this particular 1 hour is not enough to do something this large, so I'll showcase everything, but you will be getting instructions so that if you want to follow it later, you can do that as well. So that being said, apart from that, we will be using cloud, so just to make sure that things are in faster place, and we'll use that, and we will focus on the application part, how we can bring up these errors and stuff like that. But I'll walk you through the theory first. So don't again get the title of the the session is different than what we have seen in the agenda. So what we will do is like this is the same actually, so don't worry about the title as well. So that being said, I am Arvind, and I work at Elastic as a developer advocate, and I kind of I write at arvind.dev, the blog, and then I'm on Twitter. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us on a DM, so I'm happy to help there as well. So key takeaways from the session: we will use a tracing, I mean, Elastic Stack and the open source tracing solution to pull in traces and errors or issues from the Python application that is live and running actually. So the if you have doubts about what is Elastic Stack, if you have questions about what is called as this stack, I have never heard of it. Possible, quite possible every time. So Elastic Stack is nothing but Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana. A lot many people might be using this term called ELK, ELK, which is a popular open source tool for doing logging, etc. Search engine actually, Elasticsearch is a search engine, and it's a distributed NoSQL data store, open source at its core. And then you also have Logstash and Beats, which are ingestion modules, which will ingest data from various places. Kibana is your visualizer through which you will visualize everything. So this is what is called Elastic Stack. But over a period of time, community has started to use the stack in a different formats. It was designed for search engine, so that's why there is a search solution now. And then like a lot many people use it for logs, so observability was there. And then you have this security folks who are into SIEM, infosec community. They were now using it into for threat hunting, malware detection, etc. So there are three specific solutions that are built on the stack, but underlying core is the same one, but there are three different variants on top of it actually. But who uses this stack? Like I said, that there are different use cases, but who uses it? Could be developers building the applications, and we'll see a mix and match of these both developers and then DevOps people who are or SREs, or people who do observability at large scale cloud platforms. And then you also have folks who are in the security community, or even product owners, right? See, if you are a manager or a director or someone who wants to see that, okay, this page should load in this amount of seconds, and or like you want to see some KPIs, like my platform should have 99.99 percentage of uptime. So if you are a product owner and you have a team and you are working with that, so that is also another area to look at. So this is not relatively a new technology. Elastic Stack has been there from last 8 years or so. The company is formed 6 years back, and yeah, so it's been there, and open source community has been using it for quite some time. That being said, there are multiple ways to deploy the stack. We are platform and vendor agnostic. That means you can run on any cloud. So be it AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, or even your own on-prem data center, you can run. You just need a Linux or Windows VM. Again, we support multiple Windows and multiple Linux distros, so you could use that. And then you also have now the latest and greatest, the cloud native world. You can run it on Kubernetes, of course, with some caveats. That means that you need to be sure of what you're running, and you might need some persistent volumes, etc. But then, like, that's how you could run. So again, it's agnostic and you can run it anywhere. But what is this APM? So a lot many people keep asking me that all this is great, but what is this new APM thing that Elastic is doing? Or probably some people who were already using something like, tools like Datadog or New Relic or all of these tools, right, for monitoring their application performance. So how does Elastic help? Why Elastic is doing this thing? So the thing here is, I believe if you are very new to this thing, quite common again. So I just want to do some basics again here. So application performance monitoring in a nutshell is helpful for primarily looking at these sort of things. Like, for example, if you have a client and a server, and then you are asking a request to the server, and then the server responds in a certain amount of time, you might want to know why it took this much amount of time, right? As a developer, you might want to understand why it is happening that way. So that is one way to look at things. Another way is to, like, you have this client and server architecture again, but you are not able to reach server or your backend endpoint or one of your system. In a microservice world, you might have multiple languages even. So you want to understand how this entire thing plays out and why it is not happening this way, why it is happening that way. So that is where your application performance monitoring would help in. So that's where all these things can look at. As you could see, you would find out, like, why did my response return 500, and why more 500s are happening in the last, or why a 500 is happening on a Sunday every week. So such sort of questions you can ask to the data and you can get answers. That's how it is. So it monitors the request response flows, the response time percentiles, or even error or bug tracking. It can be done. So we'll replicate an error, we'll find out something, and then we'll come back and we'll say it in our sample application. And then why so important? Obviously, say for example, if you are a developer and you are deploying onto cloud or your own data center or something, and as a user who is interacting with the application, imagine that if the user faces an error, right, or some issue or some delay, right, generally what people say is, like, I would monitor this thing and find out. But wouldn't it be nice if you find out these details in real time and about your app very specifically? And that would really help, right, in teams, like if you have multiple teams, and it would really help. So that's where application performance monitoring could help. Like, it could be an error, it could be a warning or some sort of a delay, or it could be anything, right? Something like the page keeps on loading and you never know. Like, we all know that there are several applications even in India. And when you see, say, take for example, several times ago, like, say, you can take example like IRCTC website, wherein it takes a lot of time to book a ticket, or it takes a lot of time to open. So how do you monitor that? Not just with logs, you could do it from the application part itself, right? So that's where this one could help in. And it's not for front end itself, it can be for everything, right? It's not just for React or a front end application. It could be for applications built in any language. So we'll also see that. So then you implement this sort of the open source, I mean the tool called APM, and then you will be able to ship the data to a centralized store. And then, like, you could collate all of this with logs and metrics with what's happening, why this event is occurring. And then you could build this particular, and the user or a developer can leverage and solve the problem. So this is where even product owners can leverage and take help from. So another area of this thing is, like, the convergence of this, the DevOps developers and SecOps world, wherein you have this application security folks, wherein you have the developer of the operations part of the people, wherein, like, who helps the health of the application, who ensures the health of the application. And then you also have the developers who develop this application and ship the code. So wherein people would collect logs, metrics, and then there is, like, application traces, which APM is which we are talking about at this point of time. These three things is what now everyone is calling as observability. And actually you might be doing it with different tools till now. you might be doing this logs in one place, like metrics in with one place and traces with one place. Now that is, it is coming together. That's what it helps you to observe the 360-degree from any point of view, like by taking a time point, right? So that is where this particular this thing comes in. Now, as I said, you have this you can use this one in with any programming language, like be it Java, be it Node.js, or Python, PHP. We recently introduced PHP agent. There is .NET, so you could use it if you are using a microservice based environment. Like you could use it anywhere as well. So that is really cool as well. So if you have any questions in between, so feel free to write it in the chat, so we will definitely take up that and then answer it. I probably, if it is related to a slide that I'm talking about, we could also do that. Now, that being said, what is this APM, where it resides, how it works? So it's an open source project from Elastic, and then we have detailed contrib guides for each agent. You could find it at github.com/elastic/apm. If you want to contribute, very welcome. We run a contributor program as well, where we reward the contributors. There are a ton of people who are participating in APAC already. So please, if you want to contribute, it is not just for code. It can be documentation. It could be some changes that you want to make, or like something that you could suggest, a bug that you could report, anything, or a feature that you want. So you could ask anything. So these are the repos that we have, because it's again a large project and there are different agents. So that's why you could refer to this repo, and like you can go to the concerned place actually. So what does the Python agent do? Like, because we are in PyConf and we should definitely talk about Python. So what does the Python agent do? What Python agent can achieve here is like it is compatible with all the web server gateway apps. Like you could build using like something like Flask, etc. And then you have three different types of modes to attach the agent to the application, and trace the APIs, etc., or the code. And then it also supports most Python versions, major web frameworks like Flask, Django. I believe we also have support to Falcon and multiple other frameworks. And then data stores, obviously we support MongoDB, we support Redis, and we support tracing for everything else actually. So that way you could also go and look at templating engines as well. So I think I am using a specific engine somewhere. I think I used it. So it will also support looking into that sort of operation as well. So you might ask, that's it? Nothing more? No, we have a lot actually. So what I'll do is, like, I have this GitHub API, GitHub repo, so which I am pinging in here, which you could also take a look at it. So it's a search based, it's a movie search engine that is built. And then you also have this multiple branches here. You could start with basic Flask app, then you go and step by step. But what I would do is, like, I'll clone this code and then build this particular application actually. Let me do that. So I believe you are able to see my screen. If you are not, please let me know in the chat, and I'm happy to answer that. So let us create a directory, say pyconf, cd pyconf git clone. Have cloned this app, and we will also open the code editor. So I believe I already have, but let me kill that and then open this fresh one, so that you will see the new code. So it's under pyconf, and there are a ton of details that are coming in here. What does this code do? So this is what usually you will see all of this, right? So let me explain. This app does something very simple. It has a search bar, and it contains movie data, and then we index movie data, and then we will build this out. So that's how it works. So one thing that I missed talking to you about is like how do you build this tracing pipeline, and how do you do that? So what I do is, like, I have this Elasticsearch as a service. So you will get a link to the free trial, so that you could try it out on your own. So I have this Elastic Cloud. I just logged into that one. You could also use your Microsoft or Google IDs to log in to this cloud, and then, like, you just use create deployment and choose observability, and then say that if you want to use say something like AWS Mumbai, so I'll spin up AWS Mumbai. So and then I'll use PyConf. So I'm just spinning up this cluster so that so that we can ingest the data into it. Meanwhile, we will go and set up the application itself. While this is spinning up, while this is coming up, we will do it. It'll take a minute or two. Meanwhile, we'll do it. If you want, you can download these credentials, or you could also click Open Kibana and it'll automatically log in. So yeah, so let us go to the application part. I have bunch of files here which I will walk you through, and if you have any questions in between, if you have like, okay, if I'm going fast, which I am actually, because I want to cover as much as possible, but then if you are like, feeling it fast, let me know and I'm happy to slow it down. So for example, here I have a bunch of settings. I have static folder which contains my CSS. I use spectrace.css, not like the Tailwind, etc., but I plan to use that as well. Then you also have templates, some HTML files which use some HTML stuff, nothing serious there. The Docker ignore files, because I could also potentially make a Docker container out of it and deploy it on something like Azure App Service or App Engine, etc. So I'm not doing that. Then I have a config.json. This is interesting, where it shows something like app search, some details related to some backend. Okay, so that is there anyway. And then I also have a full data.json. So this is our movie data set. I have a bunch of movies from, let's say, last 20 years, all Bollywood movies, and then that is where this data is being there. And then I also have a Docker Compose YAML file, through which I can spin up this Docker file, and then like I have a Docker file, and comes to the main thing, the requirements and the main.py. So what requirements I have Flask framework, Gunicon, and then the Elastic App Search that is there. So currently we are on the master branch. If you could see my screen, we also have multiple other branches like APM, Docker, etc. If you switch to the APM branch, you will have that specific details actually. So what I'll do is I will kind of like open and show the main.py, and we'll see if we could run this application. We'll switch the branch actually. So meanwhile, if you see that I have Flask imported, Elastic App Search imported, and the client related to it, and I'm just reading from this config.json, and then I have the base endpoint, which is the endpoint for my search engine, and then I also have this what do you call API key, like say the API key that is necessary for me to write the data into the search engine. So ideally this would be the key wherein we would let the app read the data, I mean pass on search requests, but because we are also looking to index the data, I have an indexing endpoint. So that is why I have a read and write API key. I will show you that actually. And then you also have this engine name, which is what is a search engine name. So we'll give a search engine name, and then the regular search function, and then the index function. So what index function does is like opens the JSON data.json, and then like loads the data JSON into the search engine. So that's the whole and soul application stuff. So let me quickly switch the branch, and upon switching the branch, you might see that there are very few changes. Like here we get another thing called APM. We also have this main.py, wherein you have this Elastic APM related details that have come. I'm just reading from it, nothing more than that. And I also logged a sample error, and I also configured some details here. So let me quickly go to the cloud and see if it has spun up. So I think I did a mistake here. I didn't spin up a search cluster. I only spun up a observability cluster, but you could always edit your repo and change it, edit and like add something new. So right now you see that Elasticsearch, Kibana, and APM is only there. You don't have enterprise search. So you could update this deployment settings and bring that on as well. So I'll do that, but I want to caution you as well. So whenever you're trying to build an application, right? So whenever you're trying to do that, make sure that you keep your search engine stuff or your monitoring stuff completely different, because both has different sort of use cases, and you can afford to lose your blog data, or you can afford to have a bit of delay on your other sort of data, but you can't afford to give bad experience to your users who are searching on your site, right? So you always want to be good with your search. So I would always recommend, in the interest of time, I'm just spinning off it to the same place, but then you should always think of like separating it out and having a different cluster altogether. Okay, so while this is coming up, we will try to kickstart the application as well again, and then I'll also show you this forum and like show you these details, etc. So okay, so let me go back to the application. So we will be using two Python packages. So one is Elastic App Search, so which is there in the PyPy, and this is the one. And then another thing is APM. uh, I hope it comes up. I Yeah, so this is the one that has been released so recently. So these are the two packages that we refer to actually. So the entire tutorial is completely given here from start to scratch. Of course, that APM part is not fully there here, but you can learn that while I'm doing right now. I'll add those details as well in the guide as well. It's already there in the code, but if you want, you can do that as well actually. So let me quickly see while this is completed or not. So it will take a while to complete, so you could see the details here. Okay, the instances are running. Wait until the instances are running, we'll see that. Meanwhile, let us start the application. So I have moved on to a different branch here already, APM. So let me also see what branch this is there, because I don't know. Sometimes it will be on. Okay, something is wrong. Okay, sorry. So the branch is APM. Glad. And then what we will do is here we will kind of set up a Python environment, because the Python environment that I have is 2.7, but my application is written and compiled and tested only in 3.8. So what I would do is I would be interested to build an environment. So I have a virtual environment created here. Okay, BENV. Okay, so I'll create this thing. So it'll take a while and create, so that I am running my application in Python 3. So let me test that first of all. CDENV source. I believe quite a few people, you might be doing this very regularly, so that's why I am not. Okay, okay. Let me get back. Source. I am doing some mistake. I'll just correct it. Good. So maybe the environment, whatever I have, yeah, env been activate, but I am not sure uh, why it didn't work previously. Maybe I have missed. Thank you for the suggestion, Ravi. So Python version. So okay, so now I got the specific Python version, and as I shown you, let us see if I could run this application. No module, nothing, because nothing was found. So we need to install pip install -r requirements. Okay, so let us see if we could install each one of this. Yeah, so okay, great. So I think ps util is not getting installed. So there is a problem that I noticed previously as well. So this is because my MacBook, or I have a latest I am on 10.15, and there is some MacBook related issue some time back. I found out the details related to it. Let me figure out that, and then while if you have any questions, please ask me. I'm just gonna put that fix here actually. So what I need to do is, sometimes psutil would not reset. Psutil is useful for creating this creating this, monitoring this, like the Python applications. So let me meanwhile figure out that thing. I am sure that that is a fix. I just need to bring that and find that actually. Give me a moment. Mm, okay. Great. So I need to, the SDK which is configured, it has a problem, and then that is the major reason that it might not be working. So I'll just clear off this stuff and run some sample commands. So it might not be a case for you, because if you are running on Windows, it is completely different. And if you are running on, say, a older version of Mac OS, that is different. So I have some other symlinks that are configured that is causing this problem. So don't worry about this particular thing. So we'll see if this gets installed. Okay, I should have installed 5.8, but that's fine. Let us go ahead. So, and then I'll kind of like, so this is a Mac OS, something related to some issue, but I think you should not face this if you are running that. So I just have the fix in place. So okay, I'll directly cd to it. Maybe, yeah. Oh, we went in too deep. Okay. Users, great. Ravind Trevu, documents, dev, workspace. I have a very long list. CD PyConf, app search Flask app. So I should see whether we are still running this particular version. Yes, we are running the same version. I want to, I mean, anyway, env is there, but I also want to understand whether we could run the Python pip install once again. Just want to check it is installed, but I want to run the latest one. Let us see what happens. Okay, we have everything in place so far. So let us run this Python main.py. So now I believe that I'll have this server up and running, but we didn't configure any app related details. Like you see, it runs on 5000, so it still shows an internal debugging error, internal server error, because we didn't configure anything. So let us configure the server. Let us go back and like see what we have to do here, right? So for the search engine to be working, we need to give these details, so which we have already spun up. So I think this should be ready. Yeah, it is ready. So now I have to make things very clear. I have a search engine in my app, and I have an application which does movie search. So that's why we are spinning up a search engine, and then we're going to trace that application. Okay, so that for that reason I have this search thing come up here. So yeah, so let me give the details to this, or else I'll open this username password. Okay, great. So I'll click launch app search. So workplace search is something different, and we don't want that at this point of time. I'll say skip onboarding. I can do that, or else I'll create my search engine named movies, and then say continue, and say maybe from here we could use this API actually. So that's what we are going to use. We are going to use our own API from the application. So we'll not use that. We'll not use this data as well because it's not relevant. We'll skip that. And then you have movies, document 0, field 0. So you have this particular stuff, right? Now there is a endpoint as well. So now let us start this application. It should not show it should not show 500 error. It should show because okay, we still didn't give these details. Sorry, I'm sorry. So I think we need to give these details, like where the server is and how it is going to work. So let me go to the code and add this. So the details on how this needs to be configured is also given in the guide, in the link that I have pasted. So don't worry if you are feeling that, oh, it's a lot and there are more things. So for example, I have these things already configured. So it's here. So yeah, it's all there here. So you could also like try this thing. So currently we have we are configuring this particular area. So it's all given in a detailed manner. So don't worry that you will not be able to do it, nothing like that. You have complete details here. And then the API key, which we have seen in the credentials here. So there is a search key, private key, which does read and write. So we'll use the private key because we know that's the stuff. And then the engine would be movies, and then the other details. So here is where the APM really comes into play. Now you have an application which has a search engine, and you're using that. At the same time, you have say that something like a server URL, or like the application tracing engine also, you need to give that detail. So how do I get that? You will get that from the same cloud. So go to this place and then copy endpoint and then add it. There is no need to be no need to change anything. Service name, anything that you can give, I'll give PyConf, just for the, because we are in the conference. And then you also have a secret token that you could use because for security, so you could use that and save. So now when I start my engine, I mean when I start my application, so I should be able to see all of, I mean at least I should be able to see the UI, not the data yet, because we didn't index the data. So now that it is saying that it's running, so let us go and open. Okay, it's still saying the error. So let us see, something is wrong. So it's saying that there is non-existing, something is not working, and there is an engine name that is problem. So let me see if I could. Good. So let me see what is wrong with that. So we have given the engine name, we have given the search engine name, we have given everything. Now let's go to the main.py and see if there is anything wrong here that is missing, and then that we could correct. Okay, in the config.json we have movies. I believe we have the movie search engine itself. Movie search engine, as you could see, there is only one search engine and it's movies. So let us see. Okay, I think it is API AS. Maybe this is the wrong thing I am searching. So I should check here, because I forget myself a lot of these small things. So it is quite possible that everyone would forget. So let us go and check that base. Oh, what is this one? ASV1. So base endpoint with API ASV1. So I just missed API. So let us see, we'll restart the app and see. So there is an advantage doing this search engine. So that is not what we were focusing on. We are looking at the data, how to collect it. So let me go to the UI. Yeah, so now you have this the search related stuff. You don't have any details here. You don't have any stuff here that is going on. You just have the what do you call the empty UI. So we have an indexing endpoint wherein you have this particular, what do you call, the data.json, and then you index the data, and it should push the data. But that being said, let us quickly come here and see if we received any data, or the server got registered or not. So the what do you call the application is registered or not. As you could see that there is some the PyConf has been registered, and then you see the response time and some transactions error rate, etc. So I'll click on this, and you could see that right now there is only one endpoint called get, and then we didn't try anything. If you're using in Kubernetes kind of a thing, you'll also be able to find out a lot more details. So we were not doing that, so we are just running it on our local, so that's why it will not showcase everything. So let us index some data. There is an indexing endpoint. So say if I say index, it will just index some data. It's a random page, so I have got some data. So now when you click on the home, you will start seeing a lot of movies. It is bringing the top 10 or top 10, probably 10 results. And then when I search say action, it is a simple search engine. It's nothing crazy here. It's simple search engine, say drama, and it brings me these information. If say movie, it's a very blunt and simple search engine. Of course you could do more here, but we are not doing that. We are going to focus on the APM part actually here. So now that we have built this, let us go back and see in the transactions what are the details that are happening, and what things have come up. See that we have tried indexing endpoint. So this way you could build up how the application is receiving the traffic, and what are the things that are there, and how you would go and look at various stuff. So you have this search endpoint, and then which is the search is calling this endpoint called internally at some other endpoint with this specific name, which is our search engine actually. So you could see all of these detail, and the time it takes to showcase the HTML page is only very less, but the time it takes to serve the results is a bit more, and the total timeline is this. There are some requests which took more time, like the indexing request probably. So if you click on that, it will show it takes more time. So these are the things that you could go and look at using the tracing solution. So another advantage here is, I don't know whether there are any errors that has been generated. Okay, there are. So I have logged in a test error. As you could see, I have in this place I have logged in IP app.logger.error test error just for fun. So you could see that it caught that error that is being manually logged, because I am logging that. It's just picking up that. You will see the area, and if you have any unhandled errors as well, say that is happening, say in the initial time when we started, we didn't have the right configuration or something in place, and when it still captured all the metadata, and it still find out which host this was initiated at, and what is the agent that is initiating this request, and all those other details actually. If you see here, yeah, so it is happening. So you could find out all these traces, and where this trace or what way it has gone through you, and you could also go to that particular span and see the data, see how this data is being which site, which package, which page. So this is how it is really helpful. There are many more things, like this is one way to look at. Now that you have this particular area, you could go and ingest logs, you could go and ingest metrics, and you could build this particular if you are using Kubernetes kind of environment, you could build this entire whole and soul thing, and thereby you'll be able to have a nice monitoring framework through which you will be able to find out what I need to improve in my code, right? So what improvisation I could make in my code. You could also trace specific methods or functions here. So you could put some specific spans, and then it will trace that quality of that code. I mean, like how fast it is responding. Are there any issues in that code? Or if you're debugging an intermittent issue in the production, you could deploy it in some area, and then you can replicate it, and very methodically, and then like find out this solution. So that's where you will be able to find out and optimize it. So I could show you a much live example if you are having problem, if you want to showcase to anyone. So there is a demo.elastic.co which is a demo site that we have, which is the same site, but we run a much larger microservice application. So just for seeing, so you see that there are multiple applications, and there are a lot of these things, and there is also like something called service map. through which you will be able to see how the data. Oh, sorry. Okay. I'm using how the data is flowing through the entire thing. You have a Node, Golang, and then you have a Python application which does something, and then this is there here as well. You could find out this in the service map. You will, but it's very small because we are running, and then it shows the same details. But here it is very so many things are there. Wherein we also using a Elasticsearch thing. You could find out what type of database, and then what are the things that are happening. I'll show you one some more traces. Actually, there's something called trace logging as well. People do trace logging, so you could also log traces. Well, you see this is a Django based product, and then you have multiple stuff here. You see there are the multiple requests that are coming here, and then you can take the request that is taking a lot of time to show up, and then you can see what is wrong with that particular span. Similarly, you could see the time, which is what is the difference between that and this. So a lot of these details can be found out, and you can analyze these. So that is the beauty of this. And the important piece is like it's all open source and you can try it out. A lot of these features are free, and if you want to get started in some cloud like AWS or Google or Azure, you could use your you could still use the same billing account or thing, and then you could still use the service, whatever the service that I'm showing here. So because we are open source partners with Azure and GCP, so you could simply use their stuff to kind of like spin up clusters. Actually, you would get the same sort of in the same billing account. Now that being said, I kind of ended early. I rushed through, but I kind of ended early. To if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, or if you want me to answer anything specific, more specific, happy to answer that as well, which is maybe not related to the APM itself. Let me know any questions. Mm, feel free to feel free to answer if you have any specific questions. I'm happy to help. Okay. Okay. So I think then I'll share you the details. So I have some URLs that you I could give it out to you. So this is we run meetups at community.elastic.co. It's the same, more or less the same meetup platform. You could join us. So this is, we did a meetup today morning itself. So like you could join us at this place, and if you want to know more about this particular thing, you could go and visit this URL. There are some resources that I have put up, and then the guide directly I'll share these details as well, so that you would find. I look forward to do more Python related blogging, so that like you can build on more different technologies. So I'll try to do that as well. Now, yeah, that being said, if you have any questions other than that, happy to help, and let me know. I think that's it, Snehit. We don't have any questions with the attendees. Oh, by the way, I think I also have we also have a Slack community. If you want to join and ask questions later, you could also do that. Let me post that link. So this is where you could join the Slack group. So yeah, so join us and let us know if you have any questions, and we are happy to help. Cool. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Um, Nate, we can end the session actually. If people have no questions, we can probably end the session. Yeah. Snehit, are you speaking? I can't hear you. Okay. No, I still can't hear you as well. Can you, I believe, is something wrong with the mic, please? No. Probably a mic issue. Yeah, he seemed to have probably some network related issues. Yeah, yeah. Just see, maybe you might have permissions. You might not have permissions to, yeah, have the microphone or something. Yeah, Snehit was speaking to me just before the session, and she was still there. So other than that, if you have any questions related, please post in the Slack, or we also have a active discuss .com elastic dot co. You could use that as well. Um, how about now, Snehit? Can you hear us? Maybe not. Okay, cool. I think that brings us to the end of the session, and then I'll let the host take over, and then